Okay, so this video, I will briefly go through the quiz we did last time in last lesson, and well, we have very few students studied biology in English, so we only have 2 or 3 responses. And last time, I'm sorry for that, I deleted Daniel's response, and even though he or you are giving me non-helpful answers in the long questions. Now, but basically, the two who gave me a response are doing quite good. Okay, I can see you paid some effort in this chapter or paid attention in the lesson. Right, so first of all, Q2 and 3 refer to the diagram below. PQRS, so P, simple, is the root hair. Q is the epidermis. R is the phloem, and S is the xylem. Now, for question 2, which of the following are the adaptive features of part P, so which is the root hair, for water and mineral absorption? So first of all, root hair is thin-walled, yes, and it is not covered by cuticle, yes. It has many mitochondria, which is also true. It has many mitochondria for higher rate of respiration. Okay, so which means energy, more energy for active transport. Active transport for the minerals. So therefore for question 2 we have D, 1, 2, 3. Then which of the following correctly matches the parts of the root and their functions? Now Q is the epidermis. Now for epidermis, it's not covered by cuticle in roots. So since Q, the epidermis, it's not covered by cuticle, so there is no way for Q preventing water loss. Then R is the phloem. Okay, part R is phloem. Its function is to transfer the food, transfer the organic nutrients, so it's not storing food. And cortex cells should be the one that store food. So S is the xylem, so yeah, the function is transports water, and therefore the question 3 answer is B, 3 only. Question 4, which of the following cell types has the highest density of mitochondria? So it must be root hair cells. Okay, just mentioned, root hair cells has lots of mitochondria. So in order to perform active transport, to absorb more minerals. And for leaf epidermis cells, so in their roles, they would not perform process like active transport. So comparing these two, epidermis cells should not have the highest density of mitochondria. And for these mesophyll cells in leaf, well, we can say they have a high density of chloroplast or chlorophyll instead of mitochondria. Alright, then question 5 and 7 refer to the following graph. Now I'll briefly go through this graph again. A scientist put the roots of plants in solutions with different concentrations of phosphate ions. The rate of absorption of phosphate ions by the roots was measured. So this is the curve in experiment 1. He repeated the experiment by using roots treated with cyanide. So there is another plant and its roots were treated with cyanide, and cyanide is a chemical that can inhibit respiration. So So this is the result of experiment 2, the plants in experiment 2. Absorption only occur at 20 units of phosphate ions concentration. Now, so here, at least understand, inhibit respiration. So no respiration means no energy released. Then no energy release, which means that the plants in experiment 2 could not perform active transport. So there is no way. So they could not absorb, no phosphate ion absorption. Okay, so try to understand what's happening behind the experiments. Okay, question 5. Describe the results of experiments 1 and 2 when the concentration of phosphate ions in the solution is below 20 units. 2 marks, 2 points. So describe. Okay, so it's basically the most simple question type. Describe. You don't have to add explanation. You don't have to analyze. So for experiment 1, you explain this part, or you describe this part. So this part, I remember both responses did pretty good. Let me see. Right, experiment 1, increasing concentration of phosphate ions in the solution with an increasing rate of absorption. Right, so the higher concentration of phosphate ions, the higher absorption rate. And then for experiment 2, it's much simpler. You describe the curve here. So basically it's 0. So all you need to do is 1 and 2, this. And for experiment 2, the root didn't absorb any phosphate ions. Okay, that's it. Or no absorption of phosphate ions. Right? So in question 5 should not be a problem. The most difficult part should be question 6. 4 marks. Account for the results of experiment 2 when the concentration of phosphate ions in the solution increases from 0 to 40 units. Now 4 points from 0 to 40, experiment 2. So let's go back. So the first point you can describe is the curve here, the trend here. Why wasn't the plant or the roots of the plant are absorbing phosphate ions below 20 units of phosphate ions? Then why after the concentration above 20 units there is absorption of the phosphate ions? Okay, why here? Okay, having an increase. Why is the plant absorbing at 20 or above? Then lastly, you explain the trend. Okay, you explain the trend. Now let me see the response. Okay, pretty good. Thank you for your long answers. The first point, no respiration results in no release of energy, decreasing the rate of absorption. Okay, good. Because this is no respiration because of the cyanide. And number 2, under 0 to 20 concentration phosphate ions, roots can't perform active transport, so it can't absorb minerals against the concentration gradient. Well, perfect. Okay, this is a perfect sentence. At 20 phosphate ion concentration, it has higher concentration solution. Now this is I can't tell the meaning for the third point. And 4, in roots ions are absorbed by diffusion. Okay, well this sentence should be combined with the 3 and 4 should be combined to get the third mark. And let's see the second response. Because of the cyanide that inhibits the respiration, there are no energy production. Good. So the roots can't release energy for active transport through respiration. Active transport cannot take place, so from 0 to 20 units, root can't absorb minerals against the concentration. Okay, good. So basically, here and above, You got the 2 marks. The concentration of phosphate ions at 20 units is higher than the concentration of ions inside the roots. So the ions can't be absorbed by diffusion. So this should be a typo. The ion can be absorbed by diffusion. Thus, the concentration gradient will increase from 20 to 40 units, and then the absorption rate will have a net increase. Good. Since your concentration increases from 20 to 40 units, therefore you have a higher rate of diffusion. So for the second response, which is very good, okay, 4 marks, you got them all. Then the last question. Explain the shape of the curve in experiment 1 when the concentration of phosphate ions in the solution is higher than 20 units. So curve in experiment 1, higher than 20 units of concentration ions. So explaining here, why is the concentration keep increasing but the absorption rate is remaining the same, remain constant? So this question, you can just give me some limiting factors. You may give me 2 limiting factors or give me 1 and explain that. Okay, so size and number of mitochondria. This should be for size, I would prefer the surface area of the root cells. Number of mitochondria, okay, I can give you maybe 1 mark or 2 marks. Because there are limited root number of root cells and mitochondria, so the rates, okay, could be 2 marks. And I'll present the preferred answer or sample answer. And in this case, I'm using the number of carriers, okay, the carrier protein on the cell membrane. So the number of carriers for transporting phosphate ions is limited, and therefore the curve levels off when all the carriers are occupied by phosphate ions. In that case, no matter how high the concentration is, there is no carrier that can boost. There are no more carriers that can boost the absorption rate. Right, so the second part of the video will be covering teaching the new topic, the transport in plants. The transport includes the transport of water and minerals, and second, the food. So all the transport take place in the vascular tissues or vascular bundle. And vascular tissues, if you still remember, it consists of xylem and phloem. So xylem, it's responsible for transporting water and minerals. And second, which I will cover in next teaching video, xylem also provides the support for plants. Now, so first let's look at the structure of xylem. So xylem consists of many xylem vessels. And xylem vessels are basically just some hollow tubes made up of dead cells, right? So how this structure adapt to water and minerals transportation? So first of all, it's hollow, okay? So since the tube is made of dead cells, and it's a hollow tube, there are no cell contents and no end walls between the cells, right? This feature allows the passage of water with little resistance. Second is that xylem vessels are possessing thick and lignified cell walls. And this feature prevents the vessels from collapsing under great tension of transpiration pool. So what does this mean? I'm sure you should have encountered something like when you are drinking something with a straw, and you suddenly suck the drink, okay, of course using the straw with a greater force. Then sometimes your straw will collapse, okay, the middle part of the straw will collapse. It narrows down or even completely blocking the upward motion of your drink. Okay, so similar to that. So with the thick and lignified cell walls in xylem vessels, such events are rarely or even not happening in the plants. Okay, which means make sure the water can pass through this hollow tube. Right. The second tissue in vascular tissue is the phloem. Its main function is transporting organic nutrients, or simply saying food. the structure of the phloem. So phloem consists of sieve tubes and companion cells. Okay, so phloem consists of sieve tubes and companion cells, and sieve tubes are ended in sieve plates. Now, what does this mean? So this is a diagram of phloem. You have the blue thing, okay, blue tubes here. These are the sieve tubes, and each sieve tubes are ended with sieve plates. And these, the wall here, the wall with some pores, okay, this wall is called a sieve plate, and each sieve tubes will end with sieve plates. And unlike the xylem vessels are made up of dead cells. But for sieve tubes, okay, sieve tubes are elongated living cells. Okay, there are living cells that are elongated, like a rubber band, and then you stretch it, making it to a shape like this, right? Now, how does the phloem adapt to the organic nutrients transportation? So first of all, the sieve tube contains little cytoplasm and no nucleus. So these are living cells. So of course, unlike the xylem vessels, they are the hollow tube. Sieve tube contains some cytoplasm and no nucleus. But still, this structure allows organic nutrients to move with little resistance. Secondly, on the sieve plate, you have some pores. Okay, not you. They have some pores. So this allows the organic nutrients to pass through from one sieve tube to another sieve tube through this pore. Then you have the companion cells next to the sieve tubes. So this companion cell has dense cytoplasm and many organelles that supports the metabolism of the sieve tube. So for example, companion cells, they should contain many mitochondria, which means they can perform higher rate in respiration, releasing lots of energy, that can be used for active transport. Okay, that can be used for transporting food. All right, so that's the structure and adaptive features of the vascular tissues. Now here we have at least 3 different parts on the plant. Okay, leaf, stem, and roots. These we can find different distribution of vascular bundles on these parts. Let's look at the leaf first. And I remember I have mentioned this at the first lesson. I introduced the leaf structure. So you can find the vascular bundle at the midrib, and of course also at the small vein at the leaf vein network. And you can always find the xylem tissue, the xylem on top and the phloem at the bottom in leaf. Now in the stem, the vascular bundles are arranged in a ring and at the outer peripheral of the stem. Okay, not inside here, but at the outermost. Okay, so that's what we call the periphery. And just take notes here. We have the phloem. Instead, we have the phloem located at the outer region and xylem located at the inner region. So what's meant by pith? Pith is the center region here. It's the cell that stores food. Now, and let's look at the realistic diagram. There is something you have to pay attention. Now, in this diagram, usually you can tell the difference from xylem and phloem. You can tell the difference between xylem and phloem is that xylem usually having a large diameter holes, Okay, pores. You can tell the difference between this. So xylem must be the inner region and phloem is the outer region. But why not this? Okay, so this is something, imagine as a cap. Okay, imagine it as a cap of the vascular bundle, which is already out of your syllabus, so you may ignore this. But still, you should know its existence in case you encountered some diagram like this, and then you might mistake this part as the phloem, okay, which is not the case. So this part you may pay some attention toward it. Then last, the root. So in root, the vascular bundle are located at the center, and it's similar to the Chinese character mai in Chinese. Okay, so the middle part will be the xylem, and phloem at the four corner. So I just mentioned this. You can always, although it's of course it's not a very straight tan, okay, straight cross, but still, if you remember, the xylem usually having a larger pore comparing to the phloem, okay, usually having a large diameter of the pore. Right, a brief revision of how water are transported from roots to the leaf. So everything starts with the water lost due to transpiration at the leaf, and this process creates the transpiration pool. Then with the transpiration pool, water and dissolved minerals can be transported up along the xylem or the xylem vessels. Finally, water is then absorbed into the roots by osmosis, and the minerals are absorbed by active transport. Well, of course, that depends on the environmental condition. The minerals could be absorbed by diffusion also, could be. Right, and lastly, the final simple thing. The transport of organic nutrients in plants is a process what we call translocation. Okay, and translocation, so in simple word, translocation equals to the organic nutrients transportation. So this process is an active process which requires energy. Now how does that happen? So usually we have a site of production, which is the leaf, where they carry out photosynthesis. Okay. Then the organic nutrients could transport it to some other parts. For example, the growing region, such as the buds or the root tips, okay, which needs organic nutrients to grow. Or the organic nutrients could also transport it to the storage organs, such as fruits and vegetative organs. Alright, so I think this is the end of the teaching part.